Good day, students. Today we're going to go over Chapter 1. Chapter 1 in your culinary book, Food Service Industry. Start laying the foundation for what you guys are going to experience this semester as we get into a little bit of research in our culinary book. And then once we get into the kitchen and you guys start cooking. But first, before we get in the kitchen, you got to know why we do certain things and why certain things came about. Okay? So with the food service industry, you got to start towards the beginning. With these lectures, with these videos, whenever I talk, I'm going to pull a lot of the information straight out of the book. So if you want to highlight during the book or take notes, that would be great. If you have any questions about what I go over in these videos, shoot me an email, send me an email, or jot down the questions when we get into class. I'll try to answer those questions when we get into class. After we finish each chapter in the book, you guys are going to be tested on that. Okay? I get all my questions from the book, so as long as you read every chapter that we go over, as long as you pay attention to some of these videos or lectures, take notes, you'll be okay with your tests. At the end of the semester, you'll be given a final exam. Final written exam. That final written exam, all the questions from the final written exam will come off of tests you have taken all semester long. So when it comes time to study, your study guide will be all the tests that you have taken. Okay, all the questions for the final, like I said, are coming off all the tests you'll be taking throughout the semester. So that being said, make sure you save all your tests. Okay, use those as your study guide. Don't come to me the week before final and go, Chef, I'm missing chapter 2 test. Can you give me another test? No. Okay, hold on to all your tests. Okay, keep them, and those are your study guides. So, like I said, any questions, shoot me an email or get with me in class. Starting on chapter 1, we'll go to start on page 2, the history and modern food service. A couple things they talk in here: the origins of classical modern cuisine. 1765, there's a gentleman that coined the phrase restaurant. He had opened up his shop, was featuring lots of soups, and he was calling those restaurants. He was calling the soups restaurants, and that's where the name comes from. He's the one that first coined it. In the 1700s, late 1700s, around the French Revolution, restaurants were starting to become a little bit more organized. Bottom page 2, they talk about Marie Crème. He was one of the first ones to kind of gather all that information together in the 1700s. First time making the difference with organizing, getting a little bit of structure going on in these establishments now called restaurants. He kind of organized, kind of took some of the confusion out of it, and he was one of the first ones to get it started. After him, after the beginning of crème, his style of cooking became an international way of cooking. You know, his type of cooking and organization of the new restaurants started taking off, so it was kind of considered an international cuisine. After him came Escoffier. Escoffier took what crème had started, put more organization into it. Crème put together a couple books, and even in today's world, a lot of chefs view him as the godfather of culinary, one of the greatest chefs around. He pretty much laid the foundation for a lot of the cooking we see now, and a lot of it is derived from what he organized and put together. He took the chaos out of the restaurant and kind of helped organize it. One of the things he was looking at is making things simpler. Okay, instead of having all kinds of crazy stuff on your menu, maybe just have one or two items and make them really good. That's why when you're looking at the menus, a lot of menus don't have a whole lot of stuff on there. If you are looking at some menus that have a whole lot of things on there, a lot of times they combine them together. For instance, when I started working up in Reno, Nevada, I was in charge of a kitchen, and it was half American, half Asian. I set up the American menu, had it structured, had it going right. And when I looked over at the Asian menu, I noticed they had like 100 items on there. And I spoke to the chef that was in charge. I said, "How can you have so many items on here?" And he showed me it was real simple. They only had a couple sauces, a couple proteins, and a couple vegetables. But when you interact all those different items together and come up with all different combinations, you can have 100 different items on your menu, but only have a small amount of product in your kitchen. So only with a few proteins, chicken, beef, pork, shrimp, a couple sauces. Usually with Asian cooking, you have like 5 different sauces, and then you have your vegetables. The different combinations of all those, you end up with 100 different dishes. So it was very interesting to find out how some larger menus can only have a few ingredients. But then on the other aspect, there's some restaurants that have huge menus that have a lot of things on there, and each item requires a certain amount of products. That's not a good thing. That's what they are talking about here. Simplify everything, keep everything simple. Page 4, we get into modern technology. Modern technology, there's basically 3 things that happen with modern technology. New equipment, new food products, and safety and nutritional awareness. You know, the big one with new equipment was the stove. In the 18th century, they developed the stove to cook with. In the kitchens here, we got the stoves at home. You got a stove. Now we don't even think twice about a stove. Everybody has a stove. That's what you cook off of. Back then, they cooked over an open fire. You know, there was nothing such as a stove where you put things in there and cook it properly. So a stove was developed. That was a huge in the 18th century. Available of new products. It's not the sense that new products were out there. You know, you always had your fish, your seafood, your meat, your chicken, you got, your vegetables, you had all that stuff. But the development of new products, with the technology coming out, they were able to cool things down, okay? So you can get fresh seafood off the coast, chill it down, and now bring it inland. So, for example, we're in the mountains of North Carolina. A couple hundred years ago, you couldn't get fresh seafood. By the time the seafood went from the coast to here, it's a week or 2 old, it's no good anymore. Well, new techniques of shipping and moving things around, you can move product around and keep it fresh. So new areas, or certain areas, got new products that they can use. Food safety awareness. Food safety comes from what I was just saying, transporting food. You gotta make sure it keeps fresh or people get sick. Nutrition awareness, that's huge in this day and age. People are always looking at what's nutrition. All these different diets going on, you got all these different eating styles going on. People are very concerned about what they're putting into their bodies nowadays. Top page 5, we get into cooking in the 20th century. Different things we talk about here. Nouvelle cuisine. Nouvelle cuisine came along in the 70s, and they started putting an artistic twist on the food. Now you get into painting the sauces on the plate, structuring the product on the plate so it looks presentable. That's where we get into the whole artistic aspect coming from Nouvelle cuisine. Page 5, they also talk about emphasis on ingredients. Fresh ingredients. Right now, fresh ingredients is huge in the industry, making sure you get the freshest product. That's why if you're looking at a menu and look at designing a menu and you want to get the freshest product, example that we go through every year, and as a chef you start knowing stuff like this, you'll start understanding when things are in season. For example, if you want fresh fruit on your menu, beginning of the year you might want to start putting some strawberries on there. Strawberries are coming out of Florida towards the end of January, February. Put some nice strawberries on your menu. Once the strawberries start going out of season, you got blueberries coming out of Florida. Blueberries start coming up the coast, so you get blueberries going on your menu. Later on, you get into the summer months. You get the watermelons coming out. You got the blackberries coming out, and then peaches coming out from South Carolina, Georgia, getting into July and August. So as the year progresses, different fruits come available, and emphasis on the ingredients. Chefs look at that. Okay, I'm not going to design my menu in September and put fresh strawberries on there. Well, fresh strawberries are available in January and February, really nice ones. So I'll save that for them. You know, it's August, it's September. What's coming in the season for fresh fruit? We get into some nice apples coming in the season. Maybe I'll put a nice apple cobbler, apple dumpling on my menu. So look at the emphasis of food. Always make sure you try to use the fresh ingredients. Page 6, I talk about sustainability, sustainable agriculture and farm to table. Sustainability is very important nowadays. It's extremely important. You got to give back to the land, give back to the ocean. One of the best things I've seen out of sustainability, when I lived on the coast of North Carolina, there was a seafood company that I used to go get all my fresh seafood. I love oysters. I used to go there all the time to get fresh oysters. When I pulled up to this place, it was a wholesale market. It was open to the general public, sold to the restaurants. When I pulled up to the seafood market, I noticed in the back parking lot, there's mounds of oyster shells, okay? So I go in there, I get my oysters, they're in there, they got the fresh oysters, there's somebody in the back room, they're shucking all these oysters. And I asked the owner, I said, what's with all the oyster shells in the back? And he had a big sign in his shop. When finished with the oyster shells, bring them back and dump them in the pile, okay? So when I asked him about all those shells, he said, well, those shells we throw back into the ocean. They have different beds set up off the coast of North Carolina. And what they do is they dump all these shells back in the ocean. So they took the oysters out of the ocean. Now they're putting the shells back in the ocean, and those are the new beds for future oysters to grow on. So they have those oyster shells off the coast. And a lot of times if you eat oysters, you look and you notice that there's a shell on there, but there's nothing attached, and the oyster grew on it. Well, oysters grow off of their own shells. So what they're doing for sustainability, they're taking the oysters out and then they're putting the shells back in. They're rotating through the ocean with these new shells to keep the beds abundant for harvesting at later times, which is very interesting. Next thing to talk about is farm to table. Got to be real careful on farm to table stuff. Farm to table, there's all kinds of different things people talk about. Buying your food within a 30-mile radius, within a 90-mile radius. There's different terms out there for farm to table. The least carbon imprint you can put on a product, trying to get it, is probably the best way to look at farm to table. The closer it is to you, the better. If I'm going to get fresh seafood, I'll get it off the coast of North Carolina. Yes, it's not in my back door. Yes, it is a couple hours away. But if I'm getting fresh seafood, off the coast of North Carolina is the best. If I want fresh flounder, I'll wait August, September. Fresh flounder starts to come in. I'll have fresh flounder probably until about April or May. Then I'll stop buying flounder. Look what the trends, look what the seasons, what's going on. So try to get all your stuff close as possible. If you're living up around this way, look to see what's coming into the season. Best way to take a look at what's around your area is go to the local farmers market. Farmers market up in Boone is phenomenal. It's at the Horn of the West. If you go to that farmers market when they first open in April, a lot of farms have very little product out there. They might have some lettuces, very little stuff out there. But as the time goes on, as the year goes on, every week you show up, they have more and more different things, and every week it changes because that's what's coming into season. As things come into season, you get it and you put it in your restaurant. It's a good way to find out what's in your areas. Visit the local farmers market. They can tell you and show you what's coming around in season. So farm to table. Get the product, bring it to your establishment, cook it, serve it. Best way to do farm to table. Page 7, get into fusion cuisines. Fusion cuisines is basically taking a couple different cultures, put them together. Everybody does that, fusion cuisine. If you go out to an Italian restaurant around here, a Japanese restaurant, an Asian restaurant, even going to a Spanish restaurant around here, they all have their certain way to prepare things, but they Americanized it so that it's a fusion with, say, if you go to a Mexican restaurant, yes, it's authentic Mexican food, but they Americanized it. The only way to get real, true, fresh Mexican food is go down to Mexico. But here they infused it to make it American style. Same with a lot of cuisines. There's a lot of chefs out there getting crazy stuff. There's a chef out of Chicago, I can't remember his name, but he was infusing Mexican cuisine with French cuisine and putting those together. Made a crazy different menu. So you can infuse different cultures, put them together with infusion cuisine. Page 8, we get into organizational structure of the kitchen. Organizational structure of the kitchen. You got your menu, you got your types of establishments, you got the size of their operation and the physical component of your operation. The menu, before you even get started, you got to figure out what kind of menu you want. Where you go with this. You can do breakfast, lunch, or dinner. You're doing lunch, okay, what are the things on the lunch menu? Start out by visualizing what you're going to put on your menu first. Type of establishment. In the book here, it doesn't give you just what type of establishments are out there because there's so many establishments out there. It's incredible. And here they talk about hotels, institutional kitchens, private clubs, catering, fast food, carry out, full service, private homes. I don't see anything on here for food trucks. Food trucks is huge right now. Okay, if you want to be a chef and you want to own your own restaurant, a lot of people can't afford that big building. So what do? They get a food truck. Okay, get a food truck. You do a great job on the food truck. Put out some phenomenal stuff. There's some great food trucks out there. A lot of chefs, are doing a fantastic job with those. Size of the operation. How big do you want to do? How big's the operation? How many seats do you want? Okay. How many people are you looking to feed? You want to have a restaurant with 20 tables, 2 people at each one. You're only going to feed 40 people that night. That's fine. Or do you want a smaller place? You only need half a dozen tables. Only feed so many people at one time. It depends on what you want to do. Facility, including equipment in use, goes back to what kind of equipment do you want to have in here. If you don't have a broiler or any place to cook a steak, don't put a steak on your menu. Okay, you got to look at the equipment you have. You got to design your menu around the equipment that you have. Page 9, we get into the Brigade. You'll hear the term Brigade in the kitchen. Brigade basically is a lineup on who reports to whom in the kitchen. Starting out, you got the chef or the executive chef. That person's in charge of what's going on in the kitchen. You got your chef de cuisine. Usually a chef de cuisine will specialize in certain dishes, certain types of cooking techniques. You got your sous chef. Sous chef usually reports to the chefs. You got your station chefs. You got your saucier. You got your poissonnier. You got your vegetable cook. You got your rotisserie cook, your brilliant cook, garmager cook, pastry chef, your tournant. Tournant is huge in the industry, especially in the larger industries. If you're a tournant, that means you can work every station. So if you're working in the kitchen and you can wash dishes, you can do garmager, you can do saute, you can do broiler, you can do expediting. If you can do all those stations, usually you're a tournant cook. And if you're a chef tournant, that means you can go around to all the different restaurants. For me, coming from the casino industry, we always had multiple kitchens. Last casino I was at, I had 8 different restaurants that I oversaw. So if I had a chef tournant, I can take that one person and put that person in any of the restaurants that needed it. So if I had a chef going out on vacation in the steakhouse, I put the chef tournant over there. I got the chef that's in charge of the coffee shop going on vacation. I put that person over there. That chef tournant can go around and work any restaurant. If you're a tournant, whether it's a culinary cook or a chef, you are very, very valuable to the chef. Because if an executive chef has a good tournant, whether it be a cook or another chef tournant, that executive chef can put you anywhere he needs to, or she needs to put that person, and it becomes very valuable. So you'll be a valuable asset to the operation if you can become a tournant. And then you got an expediter. Expediter is a person that keeps everything together, going out to the kitchen or going from the kitchen out to the dining room. You got to be very organized, very focused to be an expediter. And it doesn't hurt to have a very loud voice as an expediter. That way you're belting out your voice and getting everybody to listen to you in the kitchen. Bottom page 9, talk about modern organizations for the kitchens. You got a working chef. Usually a working chef is someone that's in charge of the kitchen, but they're also working the line, they're doing the paperwork, they're doing everything that needs to be done besides just cooking. Skill levels, different skill levels. On page 10, we talk about different skill levels. You got supervisory level, skill technical level, and entry level. When you guys have finished school here, you're going to be entry level. I don't care how good you are, you're going to have to start out someplace on entry level. Just because you're finishing this program does not make you a chef, okay? I want to make sure that's clear for all you guys going through this program. If you go through this culinary program, you'll get your associate's degree, you'll be very, very well-rounded when it comes to cooking, when it comes to working in the kitchen, but no means will you be a chef. You got to work your way up that way, okay? You'll be a really good culinary person. You'll do really good at whatever restaurant you're working at, but you got to work your way up. Supervisors, head chefs, working chefs, directors, so forth. You got to start at the bottom and work your way up, okay? Page 11, get into other personal, professional opportunities. You're coming through here, you go through the program, talk to a lot of you guys what you want to do when you graduate. A lot of you guys, I don't know. That's a great answer. You don't know. As you go through this program, you're going to find your niche. You're going to find something that goes, oh, I really like doing this. And you're going to take off doing that. So as you go through the program over the next couple of years, you're going to find something that you really, really enjoy doing, no matter what it is. If it's working healthcare, private dining, catering, fast food, breakfast cook, late night cook, whatever it is, there's all kinds of opportunities out there. Some of you guys might not even want to work in a restaurant. That's fine. There's still plenty of opportunities out there for working with food in the food industry if you don't want to be a chef or a cook in the restaurant industry. If you end up getting a culinary job with a place like US Foods hires chefs to cook their product. I know a lot of chefs that work for a lot of these distributors that spend their time going all over the place, going all over the country, going all over the state, and they do cooking demos at all these food shows or towns or stuff like that, or other restaurants. So if you don't want to work in a restaurant, you could be a cooking demo, and they make very good money. Plus you get to travel a lot. Some of the standards, page 11, standards of professionalism. One of the things we're going to really stress on for you guys coming through the program is professionalism. That means coming to school, clean uniform, make sure everything's clean, sharp. You come with all your stuff. You're working in the kitchen, make sure you have your hat on, make sure you have a clean jacket, make sure you have your pants that are washed, your shoes. If you're working in the kitchen, you want to wear an apron, put an apron on. Whenever I get in the kitchen, I start working, I put an apron on. Safety reasons, I wear an apron. And if I spill something and I ruin something, I'd rather ruin an apron than a jacket. A lot of you guys coming in here, wear your apron. If you spill something on there and it stains the apron only costs $5, $7. A new jacket might cost you $20, $25. It's a lot cheaper to replace the apron than it is a jacket. Plus, with the safety reasons, if you have that apron on, if you spill something hot, you got another extra layer of protection before it goes through and burns your skin. So professionalism, be professional in the kitchen. No horseplay in the kitchen. I won't tolerate it. If I see you guys horsing around the kitchen, I'm going to say something. If you continue, I'll throw you out of class. If you want to be here goofing off, that's fine. Go someplace else. But you will be professional when you're in this kitchen. So professionalism is a big thing in the restaurant industry. They talk about staying power on page 11. They talk about staying power. You got to have pretty good endurance to be in this business. That's why I have some of the classes structured the way they are. If you guys come through the program, you're going to have one kind of long day on Thursdays for those of you taking service class. You're going to come through here. You're going to have your culinary class in the morning from 8 to 12. Then after that, at 3 o'clock, you're going to go over and have your service class till 7 o'clock. So you're kind of doing a long day. In the spring and fall, the days are going to be even longer because you're going to have your garde manger class on Wednesday and Thursday. Right after that, you get about an hour or two break. Then you're going to go into Skills Tour Global. And you're going to be doing that till about 8 o'clock at night. So on Wednesdays and Thursdays in the spring and next fall, you're going to be putting in 12-hour days. Well, guess what? If you're working in the industry, you're going to be putting in 12-hour days all the time. So I'm going to try to get you geared up for staying power. You got to have longevity. One of the key things I try to tell all the students about, and we'll get into this when we get into breakfast cooking, have something to eat before you leave the house. Make sure you eat that first meal of the day, because if you go into work or if you come into school, it might be 4, 5, 6 hours before you get to eat a meal. So if you get up, come into school and you don't eat, well, guess what? It might be 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock before you can have your first meal. I guarantee you're going to be pretty tired come that time. So staying power, eat that breakfast in the morning, get your nutrition, get going, and then come into work, come into class. Page 12, they talk about ability to work with people. You're going to be working with people 40 plus hours every week. So you better learn to get along with people, okay? Eagerness to learn, especially now you guys starting out in the industry, be a sponge, absorb everything. One thing I was told early in my career, you can learn more by keeping your mouth shut and your ears open and your eyes wide open, okay? Keep your ears and eyes open, your mouth shut, and just pay attention, and you can learn so much stuff. If you have a question, by all means, ask a question, okay? But pay attention. We're going to be throwing a lot of stuff at you. Pay attention and be eager to learn, okay? Be eager to learn. You're always learning. I've been doing this for over 40 years, and I still learn things. A week doesn't go by where I haven't learned something in the kitchen. Someone will show me something, it's like, oh, I didn't know that. You're always going to learn something in this industry. You can never learn everything. Experience, the best way to learn is experience, period. Learning and doing. Keep working at different restaurants. The old rule of thumb is, usually chefs or cooks, every 2 years or so, they switch and move on to something else. That's the way what my career was my whole life. After about 2 years, I'd kind of get bored where I'm working and I move on to something else. That's why for me, going to work for a place like Walt Disney World or the casino industry, it was fantastic. So when I was at Disney, I'd work for about a year and a half, 2 years at some place. I get kind of bored. I just transferred to another location. I kept my seniority, I kept my rate of pay, I kept everything. I just kept moving on. Same with the casino industry. I'd be working for a little while, get bored, get anxious, get a promotion, move to someplace else, and I'd move around the country. They moved me around the country doing all kinds of stuff. And that kept me going because I kept learning stuff all the time. Dedicated to quality. Quality is so important. I can't stress this enough on quality. Okay, quality with the food going out. Best thing I've ever heard in my life when I started cooking is putting out a dish to your guests. If you cook something and you go to serve it, you look at it. Is it edible? Would you feed this to your mother? Would you feed this to your grandmother, your father, your grandfather? Would you feed this dish to one of your family members? Okay. If you look at that dish and say, I wouldn't feed that dish to my dog, then don't serve it to the general public. Make it over again. A lot of times when I was working in the restaurant, if I'm expediting and I'm calling out orders and the cook doesn't get it up to me right away, I'm getting furious, I'm getting mad. And if the cook turns to me and goes, it doesn't look right, I gotta do it over again. Yeah, I'd get mad, but also I was grateful that they'd fix it before it came out to me. okay, before I got to serve it to guests. So check out all your food. If it looks great, if it tastes great, serve it. While you're working in the kitchen, you're going to see tasting spoons all over the place. We'll always have some tasting spoons in here. As we get into cooking in the kitchen, we get into making sauces, taste it, taste, okay? Always taste your product before it goes out. If you taste it, it tastes good, serve it. Does it need a little something to it? Add a little something, serve it. But taste your food. You got to make sure that quality is always good before you serve it. That's it on the first chapter, okay? First chapter, you guys are going to have a test on this. Once the test's over, I'll get it graded and get it back to you. But like I said at the beginning, if you have any questions, shoot me an email or bring questions into class. I'll try to answer them. But you will be tested on this. And like I said, save all your tests. Okay, those tests are going to be used for your final. Okay, thank you very much.